Please recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Carbajal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson and Ranking Member Scott. And thank you, Chairman Thompson, for including California in your listening session. I was proud and happy to join you, even when we were struggling to get in the cabs of those tractors that we are trying to get into.
That's true.
I'm proud to represent the Central Coast of California, where our #1 industry is agriculture, and where thousands of families rely on that food we grow and the nutrition programs that this committee supports. The Farm Bill is critical for the Central Coast, and because this legislation only happens twice every decade, I know it's not just important to get this bill done, it's important that we get it done right. For the past 17 months, my team and I have worked with this committee's members, staff, and California stakeholders to find common ground and common sense ways to support our producers, farmers, farm workers, and the families they feed. And the bill before us today reflects a lot of that good work. This bill and the framework laid out by our Senate counterparts acknowledges the need to invest in agriculture research, particularly when it comes to supporting the farm workers that harvest our specialty crops. This is an issue that is close to my heart. As a young man, I worked in the fields of California alongside my father, who was a farm worker, picking a variety of fruits and vegetables. While other crops have seen massive revolutions in technology over the years, we have not seen the same for specialty crops. This is still a back-breaking, by-hand work it used to be. We should support our farmers and our farm workers through the bipartisan language I helped craft with Mr. LaMalfa, Ms. Spanberger, and Mr. Miller to invest in agriculture research. We also need to ensure that we are tackling the quickly growing risks of wildfire in forests in California and across the western United States. The causes of wildfires are not a mystery to us. We know that downed trees and dead branches pose a serious threat when disease or dry and windy conditions set in. But right now, red tape can get in the way of removing those risk factors from public lands. The Farm Bill we have before us will eliminate the unnecessary administrative processes and allow for responsible fuels management within our national forests. That language is in there because I worked across the aisle with my Western colleagues, Mr. Valadao, Ms. Chavez de Reamer, and Mr. Costa, to find an approach that balances conservation and community safety. These are key changes that can help the Central Coast, and I will work to get these provisions signed into law. But sadly, it seems these bright spots of bipartisanship are not indicative of the bill before us today. In fact, there are fundamental flaws in this bill that abandon bipartisan cooperation and threaten California's Central Coast communities. California is the largest ag-producing state in our nation. A lot of the improvements made in this bill are paid for by rating the future welfare of our nation's food insecure working families through the largest SNAP benefit cut in 3 decades. That is not acceptable for the nearly 30,000 families that live on the Central Coast, 10% of my entire district that rely on SNAP benefits to keep food on their table. I have heard my colleagues say that this is not a SNAP cut, but dozens of outside experts disagree. And let us not forget that this cut is being used to pay for other programs. If the committee is considering it a pay-for, then that is funding you are taking away from hungry families. You cannot have it both ways. My colleagues and I on this side of the aisle expressed willingness to work to find savings to permit other investments in a farm bill. But sadly, those attempts at common ground were abandoned, and the majority has chosen to move forward with a partisan and flawed farm bill. Sadly, this has been a trend. In Congress, and certainly this bill will not become law. Democrats have extended our hand to find a bipartisan path forward on preventing a default on our debt, on preventing government shutdowns, and on crafting good bipartisan bills. I hope that today's markup will allow us to return to the middle, remove partisan poison pills, and finalize a farm bill that helps all of the Central Coast and our entire nation. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.